change positions. You be me, and I'll be you.
Jamming out to DJ Strychnine, which I think is a command, yes. We hope you enjoy this top secret unreleased music. Silva, welcome in. We see the friends are here. Thank you for being here. On the Sweet Man, make mistakes, Danielle. We love to see it. We love the energy. Happy Thursday.
Happy Thurs.
Which means it's Synth Friends Day. Synths. Oh, I want that to be able to be a Thursday Synth Friends combination. I can't quite get it. Oh my god, Celluloid, do you think this is like action movie soundtrack?
Synth Thursdays.
Oh, that's so funny. We're selling the strychnine. We're selling the unsellable. So funny.
It may.
This is just a treat. This is just a treat.
It's a mixed CD. I mean, I don't really know how the licensing for that works.
It's just an experience. It's just
away.
a treat. It's just for friends.
I used to give it away to nightclubs in hopes to get a gig.
Oh, the stories. The stories, they go on. Oh, well, today is Synth Friends, so we're gonna get our Synth Friend on the line with us here. Is there any business? I don't think there's any business.
Not from my end.
No business. No business at the top, so we're just going to get right into it. So thank you for being here. We are going to bring on our friend Adam Scramstad, who we know from the internet. I wouldn't say this is someone we've never spoken to before, but we've never had a one-on-one conversation like this, like face-to-face, right?
That is correct.
So yeah, this is going to be a fresh experience for everyone. Watching people meet for the first time. That's kind of the core of what Synth Friends is about. Darugan! Haven't seen you for a while. How are you?
Hey.
Looks like the stream is working. I always like to make sure everything's working before we bring our friend on so they don't have to experience the...
Oh my gosh, you can't hear us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think we did okay. I think we did all right. So let me get the Zoom going. I forgot to ask Adam how much time he has, so I might do that at the top, everyone. So don't freak out if I do that. Hold on. Okay, Adam, we're coming on live, and we're bringing you in just 1 second. Let me get it to work. There it is. Let's go testing. 1, 2, 3. Welcome aboard.
Hey.
Hi, guys. Hello.
Hello, hello. Let me set some of these levels.
Okay.
Yeah, I think we're good. Okay, awesome. Thanks for being here.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
I forgot to ask if we can talk about like where you're physically based and if that speaks to the music you make or any of your, synth origin story, or if you would prefer not to go there.
Oh, that's fine. I mean, I'm not going to give you my address, but of course.
Yeah, please don't.
Yeah,
my secret lair. Although, yeah, I live about an hour and a half south of Portland, Oregon.
Ooh.
And near a town called Corvallis, Oregon, which a lot of people are aware of because of the OSU, the college and whatnot.
Sure.
10 minutes out of town there, so I think that's pretty good.
Okay, we have zoned in. We're in
There we go.
synth spy mode now.
Yes.
Cool. So have you always lived in that area?
I grew up literally about 5 miles from here, and we live on the property my wife grew up on. So we're kind of homebodies. I've known her
That's
since second grade.
amazing.
Pretty funny, huh? We weren't sweethearts, high school sweethearts or anything, just buddies, known her forever.
Wow. We find out so much so
We
fast.
dug so deep so fast. I love it.
There's our dig in. Let's see what other things. But mostly I've lived in this area for most of my life. Went to a couple of schools in the area. When I got out of high school, I moved to Sarasota, Florida, of all places. And
Hey, that's something we have in common.
oh, really? What's up with that? Do you guys live there for a while, or?
We have
Uh,
lived in Florida. But
not
he's
Sarasota, but I'm from Florida.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
Born,
So I lived, the
raised.
closest I lived to Sarasota was probably Fort Myers.
Oh, right on. Yeah, lived there when I was like 4 years old. I remember some of my earliest memories, 3 to 4. And I remember, floating in the Gulf of Mexico. And I remember we used to have this really cool orange, 69 or 70 squareback Volkswagen. And I remember it was really stormy one day, and this thing knocked a tooth out of I remember that. Let's see what else. I remember watching Batman and Robin on TV. And then and after high school, I moved back there again. Like I had said, we had some ties with, I used to build houses for a living, so we had some construction ties there. And I did that for a few years. Then I lived in Seattle for a good year or so with a lady that I was seeing at the time. And then I moved back here to Oregon, and I love it here. I love traveling. I don't get to travel that much, but, I miss it. But I prefer it here because it's so beautiful around here.
I was going to say, obviously, my question is kind of leading because if you're from Oregon and you've lived there a long gosh, that's just the place to be. Danielle was saying they were just in Corvallis last month.
Last week.
Last week or last month? Not sure.
Yeah, right on.
Recently. So that's awesome.
Very
The
cool.
synchronicity is already occurring. Yes, these are a bunch of Florida men celluloid.
Have
That is
we
correct.
been to Corvallis specifically? I don't think we have.
I don't think we've intentionally
Grants
been
Pass,
to
we've been
Corvallis.
to.
Yeah.
Did you go to when Buchla when Bammy was in Grants Pass? Did you get to go
We
down
stopped by there once, yeah.
Yeah, we used to be
I was-
West Coasters.
there? I know.
Yeah.
Well, in fact, I was going to ask you. I'm not sure. I know you're East Coast, but where are you located, generally speaking?
We too have traveled many regions of the Americas, and
Spaces.
he obviously said he's born and raised all over Florida. I'm from Maryland, DC-ish area. And then that's the area we met, and then we kind of like did like this tour of everywhere he's ever lived. So we like went back through Florida, and then Atlanta, and then like around the DC area a bunch. Then we lived in Brooklyn. Then we went to LA,
Wow.
and that's like what we consider like our home base, where we live the longest, where we have the most like community.
Right.
But then like family stuff made us like kind of go back and forth for a while, and then like the pandemic happened, and we got kind of like spit out of all the cities and like landed in the Midwest.
I'd bark like an alligator if I knew how right now.
What
like,
is happening?
with this
Yeah.
Florida boy thing.
Isn't that funny? I remember distinctly going camping with some people that I worked with, out in the middle of nowhere, and there's some great wilderness areas out there, and we would swim in these areas. I know there were alligators everywhere.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Used to go to Mayaca State Park quite a bit. That was really cool. I'll never forget people like doing like wide mouth bass fishing. This guy was walking out with his hand, this fish, this humongous fish, and literally gators are going by. I mean, they're just
Oh,
swimming
yeah.
and fishing around gators. I'm like, okay,
I
enjoy.
tell Jack they're everywhere. You know, like they literally are. Like, you know,
I
that's
lived there. I know that's true.
that's
They were
one
in our
rumor
backyard. It
that
was
is
just like
absolutely
normal.
true. They're literally
It's the
in.
weirdest
If there's
experience.
water, there might be a gator in there. Like, you know.
Oh yeah, you should just like assume. Oh my God.
And they're so
Florida.
fast. People don't even realize if when they want to move, they're like lightning. I mean, on the land. You think in the water, of course,
Absolutely.
like that.
Yeah, they're
Return.
super dangerous. They'll snap you up, man. They'll snap your leg. Like, it's true. I hear about it all the time. I used to hear about it all the time. I, still hear about it here and there.
Yeah, Florida is like a big part of, like, in terms of the pie of things we talk about in this sort of like isolation life that we live. It's like music and like life stuff and like Florida related things. I don't know. We talk a lot about that stuff. Like
Yeah, I mean, it was a lot.
beaches and surfing
I lived
and
there.
gators and fishing and like.
Talk
it's
what you
just-
know. Now, so
Almost half
living.
my life.
So, did you ever live on the east coast of Florida? Did you get a chance to do any actual
Oh,
surfing?
That's where he's
Or
from.
I was born in Daytona, and
Okay.
my brother surfed, and like because my brother surfed, I didn't surf. My mom kind of
Oh.
like made sure that I didn't do it, kind of thing. And so, but now I love following the sport of professional surfing. Like I actually like I'm super current with like the matches and like can tell you everything about. Like I could play fantasy, but I don't. So it's almost like I have that because I didn't do it. You know what I mean?
Well, I had living on the Gulf side and had no extra money. I mean, I barely got by at the time, so I couldn't just go cruising around the state. I mean, my mode of operation was like in one of those 80s Honda Elites, the little scooters I used to have. In fact, it was the same model that you saw.
Like a moped.
Yeah, like a moped type thing. And
Right
so, I
on,
mean,
yeah.
my girlfriend and I, we drove to Disney World on this little thing. It was insane on the freeway. On the freeway. But
That's awesome.
I wanted to surf so bad, but I couldn't afford it. So I just ended up skimboarding a lot at the time, and I got my diving license at the time. Although I haven't gone diving since then. I wish. These are little pieces of my life from a long time ago.
Okay, Adam, I'm just gonna warn you.
I know
that
how you just sort of fall into that stuff when you live there.
You know what's
What's
happening,
that?
right?
Oh, just
No.
like diving and.
No, with the stream.
Oh,
we just
what?
got raided.
Oh, we did, didn't we?
Yeah. I just wanted to warn you that we just had a crew of people come in from another channel that just ended their stream, and they're hopping into our stream right now, and they're like friends. So we're just gonna say hi to them and welcome them in to have this chat with us as well. So this is from Javen Fox, who's another synth streamer. So thank you for the raid, for joining us. Thank you so much. And Don Dark Zoni, I think you are a returning friend.
It's an
Thank you for
exciting
giving the
thing
shout
that's
out.
happening right now.
Yeah, this is like very cool. So we have a bunch of new acquaintances, if you will, to introduce to the world of Adam Scramstad. So everyone who's new here, welcome in. We are the Galaxy
Welcome
Electric.
to the world of Adam Scramstad.
I am Jacqueline. This is Augustus, and our friend Adam Scramstad is joining us virtually for a
Is
chat.
that how you pronounce it, by the way?
Oh, am I saying it right?
Well, yeah, it's perfect.
Oh,
Just like guess anybody's gonna say that about their name. Oh, it's just like it's written. No, it is. It's very phonetic, and you're perfect. Sounds good.
Wonderful. Oh, I'm so glad, and I'm sorry I forgot to ask first. So yes, this is going to be a music chat, potential music ing.
Keep it wetter.
But yeah, anything you all want to ask in the chat, feel free. We were just, doing a deep dive on Florida stuff. Florida history,
Bass
living in
fishing,
Florida,
surfing. We
So-
covered it all. I mean, that's pretty much everything.
So Synth Friends is an open field of whatever happens because a lot of times we'll be talking about Florida and all of a sudden it's like this music conversation comes out of it.
Good. That's the way I go.
Oh, that never would have happened otherwise. So
Seagull, tadpole, manatee. That's it. Panther.
Yeah, I was trying to
Good.
think if I had any synth history at that point in time. No synth that early on, probably
Mm-hmm.
not. I mean, I was aware of what synths were. I was playing guitar and whatnot. Not fingerstyle guitar like I play now, but like electric guitar. I was taking blues lessons from a cat in Sarasota. So Sarasota and Bradenton are right there. So you've got a
Yeah.
lot of Southern rock history in that area. And it was where I learned about, sorry, not to talk about synths, but learned about
Please,
vintage
please.
guitars.
Yes.
And that was my first experience with vintage guitars. And I pride myself on I seem to get along with a lot of people. So you make buddies with these. I wasn't 21 yet. I think I was 20 at the time. In fact, I was because I turned 21 when I was there. And they'd sneak me into bars to see music and stuff like that. The guy that was one of the guys giving me lessons, and it was really fun. A lot of good people down there. I miss it.
I also lived in Florida when I was 20. No, I didn't live in Florida when I was 21. I lived there when I was 18, but I pretended to be 21.
Yeah.
Well,
Sorry.
what can we say?
It was the 90s.
It was the 90s.
That's so cool, though, that you were in like a culture of music and live music as well. Down
A little bit, yeah. I mean, it was kind of my first exposure, besides just seeing concerts ever since I was a kid, So, but what's the first concert you guys have seen? No, that you ever went to? I mean, like, yeah, your first concert, straight up. Guess, what is it?
First concert for me. That is a good question because what was my
If you
first
wanna know.
concert? I'm trying to think of like the era.
I bet your parents would know. Like his dad was a live touring bass player.
It was really early
they-
for me.
They were at he's like baby with the headphones. Like who knows? Something like
Understood.
disco.
My
How about
dad my dad played bass. So
or
like,
when you were older that you like chose to.
yeah,
go to.
one that I chose to
Yeah, exactly. Good point.
was probably a ska band in downtown Fort Myers called Mustard Plug.
Really?
Yeah, I was probably like 16 years old.
Mustard Plug.
Yeah.
Have you followed them?
They were
Are they still-
from, I think they were from Michigan,
And they were from Michigan.
Yeah.
And where was it that you saw them?
downtown Fort Myers.
Downtown Fort Myers.
Yeah, that town was known to have like a little bit of like Tampa's punk scene. So Tampa was known for punk and like decent punk in like the late 80s, early 90s, and then
Right.
and I went to high school a little bit later in the 90s.
Right. Our fans.
Ska was really popular in
I was gonna say the one
Southwest
thing
Florida.
we've talked a lot about your like UK influences
That's
into electronic music, but we have not yet uncovered the ska years of Gus yet. So thank you so
There
much.
was not even a years. There wasn't a years because like I like
It was, like,
dabbled.
months.
I like went to a couple shows at this place and then
Right.
like
But you knew like every 311 lyric. Is that not
and then
the
bailed
same thing?
on that and started going to raves,
Oh, okay,
Oh,
so
wow.
it was your gateway.
which were in Florida and kind of like heavy in Florida as opposed to other parts of the country.
Right.
So that was like
Yeah, I wish the rave scene is something I sadly didn't get a chance to be part of. I would have really enjoyed it. It just wasn't, when I moved back to Oregon, I'm sure there were places that was going on, but I didn't get a chance to fit into that too much. There was some smaller ones much later, around 94. Well, I guess that's still a long time ago. Around 94, 95, there was a little venue in a local city around here, and a friend of mine. Actually, ties into the synths now. So at that point in time in the early 90s, I was already, I was on a mailing list called Analog Heaven. So have you guys ever heard of this before?
oh
Okay,
yeah.
That's where I met Mike Peake, actually, because he was he used to be on there a lot. And then later we migrated to things like Mod Wiggler or Muff Wiggler, which became Mod Wiggler, of course.
Oh yes, this is the true journey.
But anyway, at the time, so I was in Analog Heaven, and at that point in time, I was just learning about sounds. I've always loved sounds and the tones, and to identify not just with a synth, but then the manufacturer styles of synth. Whoa, this Roland sounds like this 101 sounds like this, this Moog modular sounds like this. I didn't have any experience with any of the Buchla stuff till much later. But anyway, but in the early 90s, I mean, you've all heard about this, and everybody who's really into synths now just probably hates to hear these stories. It was just everywhere. I mean, you'd go to the pawn shop and you could get my first synth, which was like a Moog MG1, and it was literally $50. Many times I'd buy 606s at the pawn shops. I worked in construction, so I was always driving around the area and making the rounds. you know, like a 606 and a 303 bundled for $50, you know, at this shop. And then, you know, you play, and then you get a chance to try it and hear all these things, and then you flip them on Analog Heaven at a fair price, I might add, too. It was really fun, and you get a chance to meet people. So.
Oh my gosh, we talk about this a lot because people wonder about this like period, like did this really happen? Gus is like a big advocate of like, no, this really is how it was.
Did this end
So
up
you're, like,
being the
confirming
shop
it. It's
Analog
awesome.
Heaven or Haven or?
I think those are different things.
You know, that's a good point. No, Sean Cleary, who owns Analog Haven down in LA,
right.
which I've never been there. I'm online buddies with him, and I've dealt with him through the years, and which is just a fine shop and a really good human as well too. But no, not Analog Heaven.
Nothing to do with each other. Okay.
No, but anyway, at that time, so that whole thing was happening. You know, we're finding good deals here and there as I was learning about them, literally. So there was a local library, and I'm an honest person, I swear to God. So when you hear this story, please don't judge me by this, but I'm just going to be honest about the story. Have you guys ever heard of a book? It was probably published around 1980, 82, and it was by a guy in Eugene wrote it. Davari was his last name. Anyway, it was a Davari book of synthesizers at that time. And it was before there were vintage books out or anything like that. And that was my source book. I went to the library. I found this. I was like, oh my God. And then I just kept it. I think I still have it like hole punched somewhere. I think I ended up paying fees for it. I would never do that again. I'm honest. I'm sorry. But this book was everything. I mean, you saw everything in it. It was so fantastic. And then I had a friend of mine, Justin Shores, in town, who was into raves, and he did chill room stuff. And so I did get a chance to go, and that was my first experience where he's got this tables laid out of all these great, devices, and just making beautiful music with it, chill music. It was awesome. And so he became a partner in crime, so to speak, through the years. Well, like, hey, did you see this? Did you find this? And I learned a lot from Justin. I haven't lost touch with him, so I hope he's doing okay. But it was a really fun time of my life. So,
was it like kind of like trip hoppy, like down tempo vibes, like Boards of Canada, or?
Yeah, kind of. More towards Canada, I would say. I mean, if I'm going to generalize, even Planet Dog kind of stuff, just chill, early 90s stuff. I mean, I like that 90s stuff. It's really good.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I love the tones,
Mm-hmm.
Let's see what else. Yeah, right on.
Deeply
It was good.
same.
Yeah, I bought a few of the Behringer clones to sort of obtain, some of that sound, from the early, like late 80s, early 90s.
But nothing like those $50 days.
Right. Yeah. Well, it's almost like a $50 day.
It almost is. Yeah.
Oh.
I love all gear. That's the thing. I'm at a stage right now. I've been building so much the last since COVID, blah, blah, blah. No more talk about that. But when I started up, I was getting ready to go touring as an acoustic musician, and it was my first time that I was going to be on the road as an acoustic musician with a good friend of mine, Terry Robb, just a world-class player. And that was so disappointing. That was almost more disappointing than even COVID for me. It was just like, tours canceled. But in the meantime, I was like, what will I do here? Sorry, stories, segues.
Love it.
And I think I sent a message off to Todd Barton. I've known Todd for a long time, being a fellow Oregonian.
Yes.
Talk about him more for sure, because he's always fun to talk about. And he's like, oh, Instagram, yeah, you should get on there. And so I got on Instagram and started posting stuff, and then it just kind of cascaded. And then I was like, well, maybe I'll build up a synth again, because I was going to go on tour. I get so distracted. Okay, I love gear, I love music, I love making me, I love all the elements, and I could literally spend all my time doing one of those things. Okay, having a balance, I work towards a balance, and as I get older, I'm certainly gaining a little bit of foothold with the balance, but I can't have too many things on my plate. So but I got back into building, no guitar. I quit playing guitar for about 6 months. And then it was just, I had no idea. I hadn't built anything or even been in the synth scene since about 2018, because I took a break to focus on my acoustic music. And I was so delighted. And it was so neat to see such a great format. It was perfect for sharing during the COVID times online. I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. So it was really fun to get back into building. I started buying stuff again from Electric Music Store, but I also was dealing with Sam Modular. I mean, I just get the source material from anywhere I can get it, as well as people like Jason Butcher and lots of other one-offs here and there. And then I would do my own thing as well too. Yeah. Where'd we start? We were talking about, in the early 90s, and then we got to that.
Yes.
We went to
Every
Buchla.
thread is connected.
We went to DIY stuff, which is...
Oh, we were talking about $50 synths, and then we were talking about
exactly.
whatever.
Yeah,
all
the $50
connected, it's hard to
Rolands and how you like slightly missed out on raves, but not be...
Yeah, that's right.
Got to do some chill room time.
Well, that would have... I guess we were kind of drilling down on like you obviously were playing guitar, but like what was that transition to synths, and like what do you have earlier kind of memories about synths and stuff like that?
Absolutely. So I'm not going to make any excuses, because I love all styles of music, but when I was younger, especially, I loved bands like Rush and a lot of prog rock bands. Okay, and of course, being an electric guitar player in high school, that's when I started playing. Huge Eddie Van Halen fan, all that kind of shreddy kind of stuff. But the Rush stuff, I was like, ooh, Signals, and these albums that came out with these great Oberheim pads, and then I started keying, that's a Mini Moog. Oh, those are Taurus pedals. And so I'd see it through the videos that I watched. And it wasn't until I got out of high school, and I was like I said, in the early 90s, right before meeting my friend Justin, I found that Moog at the pawn shop, and that literally was, okay, that's the first analog synth I had ever had my hands on. I mean, I took piano lessons when I was a kid, but I'm not being modest whatsoever. I literally don't play keyboard. I mean, I'm a wannabe keyboard player. You'll see keyboards around here, but they're programmed. I love making the sounds, or they're for other friends to play. I can play guitar, of course, but no, I can't play keyboard with sharing melodies. Yes. So I just don't know. I feel like I should tell people that, whatever.
I mean, same. I'll confess. Like,
yeah, I know. Like he says that too. I'm like,
I'm not a keyboard player. I'm not even a guitar player. You know what I mean? Like I feel like the only thing I can really claim is playing bass.
Right on. I just like to create, and you do too. We all like to create.
Yeah.
So we have in common, right?
And, but Jack plays keys.
I sure do.
Absolutely.
And that's...
Hey, you guys, on that subject, while I'm thinking about it, so about Jackie playing, I know you've got your digital Mellotron and stuff like that. So one of the coolest pieces of gear that I came across during the last few years was I ended up finding a real like late 60s Mark II Mellotron, the full real 2-manual thing. So it was actually shipped from a gentleman in... by France over there. It was shipped overseas. I can't remember exactly what city it is right now.
It came to you from overseas.
Yeah, we had it shipped overseas. I talked him into it, and he already had begun the restoration project. Anyway, I don't want to talk about it too much. I'm looking at it. Look at the giant coffee table behind me in the studio, or behind the computer. Anyway, this fall. That's my DIY project. I'm hoping to get it.
This fall.
It's it's actually in really good condition. And so, but one of the main things about having this new studio space that I have that I'm still working out is to have instruments like the Mellotron, so that it's a destination where we've got a, high quality console and a digital route. People can bring their tracks in, come in and play the real deal, and then go. So it would be really fun that when you guys are recording at one point in time when that's done. Keep that in mind. You guys are always welcome here. It would be fun. So.
A Synth Friend Mellotron invitation? Oh my goodness. I'm going to pass out. Thank you so much. That's
especially
so
one of
cool.
our favorite parts of the country.
I mean, love Oregon. Love Mellotrons. There's no downsides here. There's only upsides.
And honestly, ever since you started putting together the studio, I've been watching the whole process. It's been quite the spectacle, and something that I would really enjoy getting a personal tour of someday. So
it's very compact, it's very conservative and tiny, but it's I'm just grateful it's much better than the little side bedroom that it was in for many years. So that's what can I say? We work with what we have.
Yes.
We have space outside and inside here. It's just right. I don't want too much anyway. I don't really want a lot anyway.
I love what I'm seeing though. Are those the warm pool techs?
They are, of course. Yeah, no, they're real ones. No, I'm kidding. Yeah, they're warm. The warm stuff is incredible. They make some really great.
How do you like those? I've actually seriously considered them myself.
I think that they're beautiful. I think that they add. They're really great for work. Once I get the patch bays and everything set up here, I think it would be fun to utilize it even within patches and whatnot, and just general tone and sound sculpting. But so far, all I've really used them for is master mixes.
Yeah.
On things like my last acoustic album, and it's so beautiful because it doesn't add a lot of noise or anything that you would expect from an analog Pultec And I don't have a lot of experience with the vintage style Pultics, but I recorded up in a studio in Portland called Falcon Recording Studio, and they had a few of the vintage pieces in there. And I mean, it's so hard unless you AB them. They're just beautiful tube preamps. So I'm rambling. Like I said before we.
Well, no,
not at all.
I would highly recommend it. They're beautiful.
I got us started on those, and I love the plug-in versions that I have. I have like the Apogee plug-in version, and you know the whole pool tech trick and everything. I wish they actually made a warm MQ5, the mid-range one.
I don't have any experience with that. Yeah, I don't have that much studio experience, but no. What's the MQ5? Tell me about it.
It's just focused on the mid-range. It's got like a few different boosts and cuts, you know, that are focused on, you know, either boosting the lows around the mids or cutting the mids. Like, you know, if you want to cut like 300, for example, it has a really sweet like cut of the mid-range. Like if you're just trying to take mud out of anything.
Well, if it's anything like these, even in the full range that these Pultics are set up, they it sounds like I'm a salesman when I talk like this, but they just really are really musical and very colorful sounding.
That's good to hear. I actually trust your taste.
Highly recommend. I haven't run across a warm product that I wouldn't recommend.
Oh, okay.
Although I tried them all, I've only had a small portion of it. I love the W14 mics. Yeah. The C414 copies that they make are freaking-tastic mics, and they work so good for acoustic guitars and whatnot. I really love it.
Yeah, for those who haven't looked into getting pool techs, we're talking a difference between like a $4,000 device and a $700 device.
I haven't looked at what they're going for now, but I think they were even closer to $500 when I bought them. They
were
really affordable, for what they're worth anyway.
Yeah, I think it was like $600 or $700 when I looked into it, and I was still like, wow, I mean, that is at least in the realm of something I could imagine, versus the $4,000 one is like, okay, once I,
and I mean, and
serious bonus money would be required to buy something like that,
I understand. Well, when you guys come up here, you can check them out and see what you think. There you go.
Yeah, I definitely would. I would love to do that. We're talking tube equalizers.
Oh, yeah.
Here.
I know what's being discussed.
They're really... Huh? Oh, yeah?
I know what's being discussed.
Oh, sweet.
That was a weird moment. We're going to skip past that.
All right.
Thank you so much for this lovely invitation to scope out the studio and everything you got. We obviously have similar vibes about gear. So
it's fun. Oh, go ahead.
No, you.
Oh, I was just going to say, so I've had this system mostly for what it's set up now over the last few years. I started building most of the modules, like I said, once COVID started, I started getting back into building again. And people who watch my Instagram channel or know me personally or from Mod Wiggler or whatever, it would seem like it was just an endless trade up, buy this, sell this, buy this, sell this. And I'm so grateful that I've gotten to the stage now where I'm limiting I don't build that much for many people anymore, because I'm actually saying, thank you so much, but I want to spend time making some music now. And that's where I'm moving towards. I've got a couple people that I like to build for now and then. Mm-hmm. And it means a lot to me to build for people like one of the systems that I'm most proud about, let's see if I can not stutter, was I built a really beautiful system for Eamon Tobin a few years ago, which he's featured on many albums and he's toured with that. Of course, working with Todd Barton a lot. He's the most gracious and amazing electronic musician and creative musician you're ever going to meet. More recently, Justin Milland does a lot of composing on for different streaming services, and of course, Rene Boggio, and we built up a nice system for him, and it's been really fun. So what happens is I don't do it professionally per se, but what I do is it's a gateway to create my own systems and to try things. I don't do it professionally, so to speak. Mm-hmm. But so a lot of this system, if you've been watching, came together really fast. But it didn't really, because it was like I'd build a module, throw it aside, or if someone else wanted something, I'd just build a double. I like to build things in 2 or 3 at a time. It works out really nice. And but anyway, back to the studio and where it's at right now. Studio's come along so well, and I decided, what the heck, I'll put this case together. And now that I've got the 2 systems, it seems like it would be just overwhelming, and it is a little bit today today it's still a little bit overwhelming, like if we were going to start patching and creating. But now that I've got the space, I'm getting used to it, and I'm so excited about creating standard pathways for standard patches, standard use. Right now they're just sitting on a table, and I patch a couple cables into everything. But eventually, you know, like for using the warm and tape delays, and I'd like to get a nice reel-to-reel out here eventually too. But you know, I mean, it's just wish and hope, but making the time to be creative is something I need to be more mindful of, because it's easy for me to get into there and start soldering and literally just almost stay up 24 hours and not nonstop drinking energy drinks. It's terrible. That's my vibe.
I know how that can be. Like
I've very relatable.
done a little bit of that. I have not done much building lately, and I never really did that much to begin with. But there was a season.
For like,
do you have like a look like
you don't want me to say, for like 5 years you
I
were
want you
like
to say
in
it.
this like very deep like loop, like you were describing.
maybe I was in a little bit of a fog
The
about
building and the wanting to learn and wanting to build the next thing, and
Sure.
so selling, and then the building, and then the next thing. Just
Well, I mean-
and now we're here, and you've like stabilized, but it definitely was
That's,
a
yeah,
ride.
you've built most of your system, isn't that correct? You're quite the
Bit of
DIY
it.
person yourself, you know.
I would say at this point, let's see. I mean, a lot of it is DIY, but there's some Buchla stuff in there now. 1979. You know
Yeah.
what? Like, I feel like the numbers are dwindling on the amount that I've actually built of this system.
Oh, interesting.
Like, maybe only like 4 or 5 modules out of, you know, an 18-panel system. There's some
But that's
2-panels.
because your system is increasing in physical size, but the same core that you built, of course, is still there, right?
Yeah, I would say it's kind of like that, yeah.
Well, so Jacqueline, what about yourself? Do you ever do any patching with that stuff, or are you just sticking to keyboards and vocals and creative side? I mean, I know you guys work together in so many different ways, but I'm just curious.
Oh yeah, no, it's really interesting because I've had different synths over the years. I had a season where we were apart for a while, and I had like a small modular system that I scored a film with.
Wow.
That never came out. So like that's like some hidden project that I did that's like really weird. And then we
That's
did
right.
some stuff together when we were living in Brooklyn. We had our studio set up so in this one big room. Instead of our bedroom, of course, we had it be the studio so that we could have all the synths and all of the things. And that was a period of maximalism where we both were patching stuff. And we just got to this place, like I think especially with doing
I know
Twitch,
where you're going now, yeah.
where even when we first started Twitch, I had the Mellotron in here, and I was like doing the keys and the looping and the vote, and I realized that I was like, when you're improvising with someone else, with this project, you know, or whatever we're doing here right now, like it is more of a deep listening exercise for me to only sing
Okay.
than to have the control of the stream and of keyboards and of patches. So like whatever can be the most like meditative state, we find that like him kind of staying in patching land, sometimes veering away from that and doing lots of other things. But that's kind of why we started doing the drones, is to we both had a system we were droning with. And then I started doing the vocals again. So I do struggle with going back and forth, or sometimes doing both. Like when we did our double album, I had like 3 synths that I was playing with. So it's like I'll go through these periods of expansion and then contraction creatively.
Yeah, that's a good point on Tomorrow Was Better Yesterday.
Thanks for letting me ramble through that. I haven't really thought about that in a while.
You played the
can
crap
hear
out of the synth on that album.
On Twibby?
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. I think when I think about it, I'm like, who was that person that was like ripping it up on all these different synths? Like, that is not who I feel I am right now.
So
Well, it
much.
sounds like you guys, just like many of us, are just figuring out what works, and you know, we can all submerge ourselves into one style or whatever, or put a little piece of us in everything. But I prefer to pick and choose and have 1 or 2 now and work that balance, is what I'm saying. But I certainly enjoy all of the different endeavors that I've worked on, even on Mod Wiggler. When I was first getting into DIY, you know, I was, I had a cabinet shop, so I was like reproducing, old Moog cabinets and stuff like that. And I'm a huge fan of form factor. In fact, I hope it's okay to kind of segue into something like
Please.
this. So many times, one of the things I enjoy the most about the Buchla, and it's been said by so many people, is it's a lot about the interface. Okay, and that's one of the reasons why I know that some of the clones, they're clones, and I also know that they're not exactly like the old ones, you know. But through the years, through people like Roman and Dave Smith and the MEMS project more recently, there's there is a good portion of these that actually is like you would be hard pressed to hear the difference. I took a lot of pride early on. I had a chance to meet some people with some actual Buchlas and had some hands-on time here in Oregon. Really fun. And I think the biggest differences between, like, let's say if this was a real one, this is not real for people who are watching. This is just one we built. It's a clone system. If this one was a clone and this one is a real one, I think the biggest difference is in how it interacts would be with modules like, well, the MAR, for one thing, up until about, I think it's been about 6-8 months ago, the firmware was pretty lousy and it kind of had glitchy things happening. But at the same time, it was still really fun to use. I mean, I'm going to say that right now. It wasn't like, even though people say, oh, it was kind of crippled, didn't work right, it certainly functioned above and beyond many other modules of that style. But now, more recently, of course, we know that there's been some people outside of that project who came back and reprogrammed it, and I guess it's pretty much the same way. In fact, it's probably a lot more reliable than the real one. I don't know. You guys have probably listened to the Buchla podcast, you know, with Dark Sparkler and whatnot.
Yes.
Kyle
Big
Swisher.
fans.
Yes, those guys are awesome. In fact, I know you guys were on there. It was a great episode. Well, Kyle's like the master of the MARF. And so, and then I know he did a residency at EMS in Stockholm or in Sweden or something.
Yes.
And that was one of the things that I gleaned from him from the interview, and in chatting with him also, I would definitely consider Kyle a good friend, is the fact that the modern one is just so much more reliable. And it's just great to have that subject. I guess I was talking about the big differences. So MARF would be one, okay, but now they've corrected that, so it works fantastic. The 259 is always sounded, in every version, has always sounded fantastic. I've been grateful and to have and owned a few different real, 70s 259s through the years. And although I never A/B'd them back to back, interaction is extremely similar. And now, of course, the clone versions are almost a part for part version of it. Early on, I had a 266 that was a garage still 266 that I think I traded with my friend Josh Hawley many years ago, and it was a Mark Verbos, because Mark Verbos, before he made these wonderful Euro modulars that he makes right now, he was quite the Buchla guy, and he still is. And once again, not A/B and then back to back. The modern clone, and probably for that matter, I should say the Buchla USA version as well too, because of course Roman is behind that. It functions like the real. It's so great.
Yeah.
But things like the 292, although it functions and we have the interaction through it, which I was talking about enjoying so much, no. I mean, the real 292. A real 292B that was also in the same system I was talking about earlier, and there you can't even describe how amazing those Vactrol sound. They're just so warm and they just wrap around you. It's so beautiful. So, and of course, knowing people like Rick Smith and visiting him up in Vancouver, BC through the years, and having it, I wish that everybody had a chance to, and I know I'm spoiled that I've had a chance to lay my hands on the real stuff. And so I take a lot of pride and I put that into the builds that I've made through the year and just try to tweak them just enough to make them as close as possible. But moving back to what I originally said, I still believe that 90% of the experience is the layout. It's just a beautiful layout and it draws me in. Because I've had Euro systems, I've tried all sorts of great systems, and Surge. I love Surge as well too. Mm-hmm. But I think when it came down to it, we were talking about having our, finger in too many pies or whatever. It's just stick with the Buchla format. It works. I guess I'm a synthesist. I don't really consider myself. I just enjoy sound, and I love interacting with the Buchla format. And we live in a golden age of analog modular synthesizers right now, so it's great. What can I say?
Wow, that was an amazing rundown.
We do live in a golden age of it. arguably not the best time to try to get a hold of something at a decent price that we've ever had. But you know, I agree with you on the format. It's so it's just nice to. For me, I just like the size. It's that simple. Like I like the darn size of the format. I think that it's nice to have normal knobs in a modular.
Yeah, I mean, I love the Pico systems. I love all the, you know, the Erica synths, little Pico modules and 1U whatevers or whatever. I think that they're fidelity wise. I mean, people will complain about, oh, it doesn't have this power supply or it's that or it's noisier. No, I don't believe that at all. I think it's equally amazing in its own right, and we have the choice to use that if we want to. And I think that whatever grabs you as a musician, you should gravitate towards that. If you have access to a Euro module setup, you're going to love it. You know, if you have access to a Buchla, you're going to love it. I hope that people can read through our conversations. And I don't ever want to be considered myself an elitist, because if you think I am, I think that's perceived. I sure hope not. I'm just here figuring stuff out. It just laid in my lap. I wasn't really looking for this stuff. It kind of found me, and I'm grateful to.
I hear you. Yeah, follow your bliss. It's all good.
I know.
No, I think we would all agree that you're a synthesist. I think we would all agree that you're in it for the love of the game. I think we feel good about it, and you can just not worry about that at all.
Yeah,
it's all good.
And plus, you know, I would say the one thing that, you know, I've felt amazing about, you know, with our channel is that, you know, we have a very supportive channel. You know, that the people that check in on our streams, you know, they are here for the conversation and, you know, wherever it's going to go, you know, so that is something really nice to experience from a community. And
yeah, a lot of synth friends in the chat. Hello, everyone. Thank you.
You know, so it's really nice to be able to geek out and not feel judged.
Just be ourselves. Yeah. I mean, that's one thing Jacqueline, I don't know you very well except for a little bit on Facebook, but of course, guests through the years in the forums more so.
Yes.
And I mean, whether we're talking now on a live stream or behind the scenes, it's why put on a face? Why be anything other than what we are? I mean, even though that's the case, I was still a little bit nervous to do this today, but not because I didn't want to, but just because it's so, you know, do something corny or whatever.
Oh gosh, no, please. We're the crown kings of
Hold on, wait, we got Kyle being sappy in the chat. He's saying, no, I'm just kidding. He wants to thank the three of us for sharing so much over the years. He said he's learned so much from all of us. So
wow.
That is really nice to hear from somebody that I learned so much from.
This is too much sincerity.
Should I get a Marf someday? I am coming for you, Kyle.
Oh my God. I mean, wouldn't you guys, I mean, have you guys been seeing Kyle's Master Marf videos or whatever? They're freaking insane.
I checked them out, and I just watched them because I don't have a Marf, but I'm amazed at what they're capable of, especially when they're working right. You know, so it's just really fun.
Well, before I show my favorite record right now, currently, this is one of mine. Of course, there's Kyle's album, Dark Sparkler, and we love it too. And since we're bathing him in love right now.
Yes, bathe him.
Yeah, that cover is still like one of my favorites.
I love that freaking cover. You have it.
Heck yeah.
Inspiration. Of course, that movie in general and all of the sounds, and of course, Luis and Bebe Baron. I would say for me, that's where it's at. I think I love coming from that improv side of things because they were certainly improvising.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Some of my faves. Let's see what else.
Improvising life.
I was worried that I was going to get past this and run out of time. I know we're not, though. You guys ever listen to this record by the Peter Thomas Sound Orchestra?
What is that?
It's called The Chariots of the Gods.
Question mark?
Yeah, I know. It's crazy 70s
Oh my
stuff.
God, I love it.
Check it out. It's the original motion picture soundtrack done by Peter Thomas Sound Orchestra, this German composer. Oh man, you guys are gonna thank me. You need to listen to that soundtrack.
I can't wait.
We have
to put it on Discord.
I want to be clear that, in terms of that 70s conspiracy thing, that's a bunch of crap in my world, but I love it. I love it because I grew up in the 70s, are UFOs real? All that kind of.
Oh, I'm like, which conspiracy? Which one?
We've been visited by the, creatures from outer space, whatever, that's fine. I just think of it as interactive, artificially or automatically created science fiction. So anyway, check it out.
Sure,
check it out.
Sure. Yeah, that seems totally up our alley. We would totally ride with that.
Sounds.
And then
right,
of course,
yeah.
the White Noise album with Bashar, one of the most amazing records. Oh my god!
Is that the original press or
taking that to my desert island if I ever have to go?
Of course it is. Of course, Tomita. This is a fantastic set.
I love this
Paradise.
Selection. What in the world?
Well, I cherry picked my faves together.
Wait! I need to see that one more time. What was that?
It was a.
Isn't that cool? Psychedelic. Douglas Leedy and Tropical Paradise in a box.
Wow.
So good. Douglas Leedy. I wish I would have known him. I guess Todd has interacted with him because he was a Corvallis person at one point in time. I think he taught controllers and had written books about that. Isn't that amazing?
Books about controllers?
And then, of course,
that's right up my alley.
And of course, the Susan Ciani stuff. I think of all of it. How can you not? The 1975 show is it's everything.
That one gets multiple spins from me. Yeah.
We actually just got the Caitlin Aurelia Smith with Suzanne Ciani recording.
Mm-hmm.
It's one of my favorites.
The one that's from a few years ago, not too long, just like 2 years ago.
I just got it on vinyl.
It's all fantastic. Such high quality work, and it just seems so real. That's anything about.
Yeah.
Yeah, the thing about Suzanne Ciani that resonates for me now is that she's kind of like, at least I assume, just from I've met her a few times and we interacted online. I helped when she had one of the early morphs. She was having a head scratching moment, so by way we ended up chatting that way, and that was really fun. She was very polite and very nice, and I also helped her with some calibration of some 200E stuff at the time, or helped to get it happening. But she's so real. Like in Caitlin Aurelia Smith, I think that I think the scene that you guys are in, I guess we are. I'm an outsider with this. It's just such a great scene. We're all, you get some people are over the top and me, but I think that as a unit, we all rise up better for it. It's a great time. Speaking of that, another great record recently.
Well, I'm not going to agree that you're an outsider, but
yeah, no, agreed that the vibes are good.
I wish I had I need to record more. I do. I have been going through my archive of Surge sketches, and I'm really excited. I've got a lot of great recordings and also some early 100 stuff. I had a really beautiful 100 series system, a real Buchla for a while. So I'm going to go through there, and I was talking with our friend Nathan Moody, and he's available to do some mastering of some of those tracks. So I'm kind of late to the game in terms of, I used to just put stuff on YouTube, but I do have some stuff stashed away that I'm really excited to share. So soon, maybe later this fall.
Please
things
do.
Will get done.
So.
Have you ever made any collections or recordings of your synth stuff?
Not really per se. It's just out there. There's some stuff I haven't even been on.
Besides
Bandcamp.
YouTube, you didn't intentionally make any records.
I've been on a couple of compilations. I think there was one or two Surge compilations that I was invited to be part of a release, and there was some Mod Wiggler albums. That there's some Buchla stuff I did. I think I've got a box of records around here somewhere. That I need to.
Rare releases. We need them.
That's cool. Yeah, I think. Because, all the stuff that I've seen of yours, which I think I started seeing your stuff when I joined, Muff Wiggler, which I think was in 2010 or 11, something like that. It was, around then for me.
That sounds right.
Well, that's, if not even a little bit later. I think that's around the same time I actually got into Buchla, was around 2011. But anyway,
I've known about your videos, I guess, since you started making them, and they've always been I'll be honest, one of my absolute favorites. Just every time. So you're so consistent. With, I guess I think it is that I like your taste in patching, in particular, just the type of sounds that you end up creating. I feel are very much in line with the type that I would try to aspire to make myself, so.
Well, thanks, man. I just many times those videos were just because I'm learning from sharing them, as we all know. It's how you learn. You learn by sharing. So that's the spirit as it has always been. In fact, that's why, and up until you had to, only when you went, everybody has ads now, whether you sign up for getting payback from your station or not. And I put that off for as long as I can. In fact, I'm not technically taking any money from that station because I didn't want freaking ads for people. I just want, if they want to watch something, great. But now they're everywhere. And now that we're to that stage, I think I might actually fall in line with that, but I haven't had a chance to really spend too much time with that yet. And, if it pays for some patch cables, right, then we're good.
No, I don't blame you for that.
Positive, yeah.
Or coffee. But no, physical releases like that. Like I said, I just kind of went into this as a hobby. But now, I mean, time keeps going by and keeps going by, and yeah, I do want to have some releases. I'm working on it. And I'm not just saying that too. There's some stuff in the back burner, so I'm excited to get that Surge stuff out there, and it'll be. And there's some Buchla stuff as well too. I have some good high quality recordings of most all the videos that I ever put on YouTube archived. I did have a scare though when I got the studio. When I started putting things in the studio a few months back, I found my hard drive that had all these great recordings, and I'm very good about backing up usually, but I didn't back this up, and so I thought it was backed up somewhere else. So I go there, I plug it in, and it wasn't working. I was like, man, there's years and years of things gone. Anyway, long story short, I ended up taking this little external hard drive apart, and it was just a power supply. And I was like, ooh, and then I immediately copied the drive. So that's when I, like a month or two ago, rediscovered some of these recordings. So I can't wait to share them. I think that, given the spirit of what they are, I don't know. I don't want to sound cocky and say that they're not songs and disrespect someone who doesn't make songs, but they are songs. They're improvising. We were talking about improvising earlier, and. That's why I like to play acoustic blues guitar as well as fingerstyle. I just like to make things up. I certainly can follow formats, whether they're on a synth or on the guitar or any sort of musical instrument. But I think some of the most beautiful things come out of people's imagination when they're just letting it flow. I mean, that's like 1% of everything else we do. Every once in a while we get something right that's just really beautiful and we can build it up.
Exactly.
That's
No,
so true.
you nailed it.
Yeah.
I subscribe to that philosophy for sure, and that's a lot of what the Galaxy Electric is built off of.
That's why we have so many hours
trying
of
to
it,
find
and
that moment.
We're still just digging through the hours of it
And
to find
capitalizing
those
on
gems.
it. Like so many times, like you record so much stuff, and then you listen back to something and it grabs you, and you're like, okay, well that's the thing to work on.
Isn't that amazing? I mean, and we've some of my most favorite things will be things that I thought sounded terrible, but I just kind of threw them away. And I'll come back and go, wow, that was with fresh ears. And
I always have to come back. Always have to come back to stuff that I've mixed or anything because I for some reason I literally have a hard time. I don't want to say this because I don't want it to be true. But in the past, I've had a hard time liking things in real time. And I would say, I've had a few projects recently where I've been able to sort of put that to the test. And now I feel like I'm in a place where I'm able to appreciate things more in real time. And as an artist, I'll say that that's one of the most important things that I've learned and that I've, put to practice is just appreciating the work that you're doing in the moment as you're doing it, and just getting to that place, without necessarily having to take so much of a step back, because what I realized is the need to take a step back was the problem, and I wanted to just close the gap on that as much as I could.
I think either approach is valid, but you certainly want to pat yourself on the back. We all need to do that. We need to encourage ourselves as we're creating, and but you can't just instantly get into that stage unless you're some sort of a weirdo narcissist, which you guys are not.
Yeah, maybe that's the problem.
Hope not anyway.
We care
You're
too
good
much
at
about
hiding.
making sure we're not.
But yeah, we have to stay encouraging to ourselves. And it's something I'm working a lot on too. I get a lot of great praise from friends, and I'm so grateful for that. But usually I'm like, whatever. I enjoy the process, but I'm time's coming along. That like that example I said, finding these old tracks is like, whoa, that was interesting. Maybe they're more relevant now because there's so much more experimental music out there, and maybe more people are more open to it. Maybe that's shifted the way I think about it. Although,
Yes.
it was all created, and I'm sure you're very much the same way, especially when you guys are all working with your modulars and stuff, is the process itself is really rewarding. There's this weird tactile thing that just pulls you in. But but the but of course the audio is what is king and queen, so to speak. So
Right.
all down to tone. I understand enough about the theory of sound from having learned it, like we said, starting out flipping all these synths back when they were so inexpensive, get it, try it, get it, try it, get it, try it. And then to finally settle on it. I'm just glad I rode that wave at a point where, okay, I moved what I didn't want to have, and I didn't want to be considered this guy that just flipped gear all the time. But I was. But it was interesting how it transitioned to actual creative time with the instruments, and I'm so grateful it became something like that. And it's really fun. The journey has been freaking incredible.
Yeah,
More.
sounds like it.
Yeah. I was going to say that staying in the zone where you're just enjoying the process is like just a way to like kind of ride that to
Yeah.
where you want to feel about it.
We want to treat ourselves to that. Now, so on that subject, if it's cool with you, I love talking about everybody's approaches with patching and whatnot. And certainly there's no any one way, for example, and I guess I'll start with one. So for example, I don't always have a sound in mind. I do sometimes now we all do to some extent, I imagine. But mostly right now, I think one of the things that is an element of almost any patch I do is I usually, if I have a module that does this function, even if it's in the Buchla system, I'm not saying it like unless it's not a Buchla module or whatever, I don't care about that aspect of it. I love it. I love creating the functions by not using the dedicated module that does that function. I love creating sequencers out of non-sequencers, for example. Using non-standard frequency modulated sources. And so I'll go down that rabbit hole, which is just the creative part of it. I might not even know what it sounds like at that stage. And then that's when these new doors open. And then you go, okay, that's cool. What about you guys? When you start patching, do you have an idea in mind, or are you like, I'm going to focus on, what do you do? What do you do?
Who do you want to go first?
No, I mean, obviously, if something comes to mind that's inspiring to share.
I will say that, like, as I've explored more and more synths, my approach is usually to have a sound in mind for usually, either to start a piece or for a piece that I'm working on, and to achieve it, in my studio, usually with hardware, sometimes with software. I'm definitely not opposed to using software because that's how I got into music production, was through the DAW route, so that was kind of my first foray into it all. But anyway, these days it's usually with hardware just because I find it easier to, get a sound that I'm looking for out of the box, because you can, do several things with your hands at once instead of having to tweak one parameter at a time with a mouse.
Oh, for sure.
Which has its benefits, like I said, I like it all. But yeah, I'll just try to hear a sound that I'm looking for, I'll sort of just have a timbre or a rhythm or an envelope, volume envelope in mind that I want to match, and just attack that. And like you said, try to be a little bit spontaneous about it and let one thing inform another. And
you let the sound, now I love this, we've heard Todd Barton mention following the sound. Do you try to follow the sound though, even though you've got something else in mind? It's like, oh, this is interesting, and go with it?
Well, I have ADD, so it's gonna happen.
It's built in.
Just personality wise, I'm going to get distracted along the way.
It's just gonna happen,
and I allow it. I think it's one of those things.
It's the playground of distraction.
It's kind of like meditation. Sometimes I'll play around with it. I'll sort of calm myself back to the sound that I was trying to make. But other times I might allow myself to be distracted. It's like I'm playing my own little game oblique strategies
good.
as I patch along.
I kind of had a feeling that was the case. Most people are, but it's always fun to hear that, us talk about it out loud.
Oh yeah, for sure.
It's but then again, and then sometimes I'll start with, wow, I really like the sound of the 259. I'm just going to play the 259. And then of course my favorite delay, two effects are straight up reverb and delay. And I know it's overused, but I don't really care. So, but I'm still trying to put more often. But you can take any one module in any system for that matter, but specifically like 259 into the delay or the reverb. I mean, I could spend hours with that sound, and that's when I'll get a core basic idea, and then I'll try making, like I said earlier, designing a patch that sequences through notes in some function, whether it's a whole bunch of function generators that are flip-flopping and interacting and switching the 257 channels and panning and stuff like that to create a moving melody. Once I've got that in my hand, then it turns into something else and go, oh, okay. And then to interact with, what's so great with the Buchla is that you can have a function block not just serve a purpose of pitch or whatnot. Of course, you can have it affect just slight amounts of randomness and whatnot. I think one of my favorite patches, I've tried not to do it for a long time, but it was like I always patched it on that, was to take the 266 and the sample and hold down below, and utilize a looping ADSR that was synced somehow with the music that was happening, and it would just create these melodies. Another one that's really fun is to pulse the quantized random voltages on the uncertainty, and every time you pulse it on the keyboard, it makes another set of voltages, and then to use the CV to control, how many steps it has, and it will basically cycle through those. And I used to do that all the time.
I learned that from you. Yeah, actually, that's something that I do a lot now, and I do that because of you.
Oh, right on. It's
exclusively
fun. It's so cool.
is also making a sequential switch out of a 257 that I got from you. But
That's
yeah,
the way to go.
There's a few ideas. Although I still want one of those DSSs. I have one blank space in my case right now, next to my 245. I want that darn module.
Well,
I've wanted it since the design was he's had that design forever.
That's what I understand. I hadn't been following that for a while. It was neat to see that I guess it finally came around and was finished. And he did a great job. Wes is a fine builder, and I love his passion that he puts into the modules that he has. And I was really excited to get that dual sequential switch. I think whether you want to get one that's half audio and half of CV, I just got that for the variety. I think that's pretty good. But I think in the long run, if I was going to get another one or add one to the second system, I think I'd go all CV. It isn't because I don't like the audio aspect of it, but that's where the CV, I've already got like two 245s and a 246, which are the Buchla sequencers. And so we've got, and the Marf. So it's insane. So you'd think that I don't even need something like that. But once again, you can having the variety, whether to the listener's ears, the end result is the same, but for us as creators to be able to have fun or to take another approach to it. And of course, and to add on top of that, many times using an alternate source of a more exotic patch to create a simple function affords you and offers up so many new points within the process that you can voltage control. And so then you start adding feedback loops into things and whatnot. And then you're lost.
It's kind of the difference between building circuits and understanding how they actually work, because when you actually understand and test and build and have a good idea as to how the thing's functioning, where you can make slight changes just based off of logic, where you can now maybe hear some differences in what you're doing, and you know what I mean, so it's similar, to that, with patching, I feel where once you really get into the nuts and bolts of, like you said, a patch that just involves a lot of modules, but, maybe it's not, doing anything.
It's ridiculous, but it isn't at the same time, because you learn from it.
But then you can tweak the inner workings of it, to get something slightly different than you could probably even get with hardware that would do, something else that was designed to do the same function.
It's live circuit bending without bending the circuit internally. Oh, yeah. It's external circuit bending, I guess, right? Obviously. So that's pretty cool.
That's Very cool.
Something really kind of fun I think you're going to get a kick out of. I wanted to show you. This is ridiculous. It's a gadget, okay? But I remember these when I was a kid at the Five and Dime store. Literally, there was a Five and Dime store in Corvallis. And I always wanted one of these. And then recently, the gentleman who helped me, a guy named Benjamin Small, who did the remodel and helped me do the studio, or he built the studio, I should say. He shows up and he goes, "Hey, do you think this is something you would like? And tell me if you've ever seen one of these." A Zoob tube?
I'm stoked
you know what it is?
about this.
I think I've seen one. Yeah.
It literally was, it was probably $5 or $10 a place, and it's got what on the end. It's a big, it's a cardboard tube, and it's got a spring inside of it, and it's got these literally solo cups in the ends, and so you've got this.
I love this so much.
Pretty funky, huh? There's a spring in there.
Yeah, it's kind of like a spring reverb, but you're just making the like.
It sounds awesome. I'm not kidding you.
Cool.
I haven't had a chance to record or put it in the path in some sense, but I'm looking forward to it. And now being a DIY person, I'm thinking, I've considered learning how to make a plate reverb now that I have the space for something like that. But I think I want to figure out a way to put this in the signal chain. It sounds incredible. Of course we can put it in its own box and a closet out of the way and have it be really clean. Okay, so there's one cool toy. Check it out.
That's a good idea. I hope you do that.
It's the ultimate. Here you go. Look at their tagline.
I need more Zoop Tube. Oh my god, the ultimate cosmic sound machine. Are you kidding me?
It's so like early 90s looking.
It is.
Oh, isn't it crazy? It was an 80s device. So there's that.
Okay, so even the
You guys
80s.
ever? Of course, we've all heard of. Many of us have heard of the Critter and Guitari, right?
Yes.
The company.
Yeah.
Early on, I had a Kaleidoloop. Have you guys ever played with a Kaleidoloop?
No.
Kaleidoloop?
Yeah. So what it is, it's a little. I think it's like an 8 or 12-bit sampler that allows you to tweak. Has a transport like a tape control. So it's got high speed, dead or off, and then reverse. It comes with this funky little built-in microphone. It's got a volume knob. It's got speed and direction. It's got a quantizer, which is pretty cool, or not. And then there's a button for record or play, and then you cycle through the buttons. You can't trigger it. It doesn't have that much control to it. But I like that. I mean, there's lots of do it as well too. And I just got it back from my nephew today. I bought one for him years ago, and now you can't even find them. They're ridiculous. But if you can, look at the Kaleidoloops. Now, they sound fantastic, actually. So I was walking around earlier, and getting some sounds outside. I didn't know if we were patching or not today, so I just had it as source material for triggering things or whatever. But that's not going to happen now. But that Zoob tube, oh my God! So I recorded. So here's how the thing works anyway. Let's do that. I promise there's no body function sounds on here. It's just
we would love it. It's all good.
Whatever. So let's see. We'll start it with no quantizing. Let's see what's happening. Oh, okay. So this is a roller organ that I just found at a garage sale the other day, and which is like a pump organ, making some random sounds.
Recording number 1.
Oh, wait.
Recording number 1.
Hold on. So of course it does all the.
It's giving you that haunted feeling.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sorry, I'm all hypnotized by it.
I know, me too. I'm obsessed. This is great.
So let's go. I'll just really quickly. I'll go to one of the ones I did earlier. Where I took that Zoob tube. What did we call it? The ultimate cosmic sound machine.
It's like a Bill Nye segment, but music. I love it.
Here we go. So I'm just gonna cycle back till I hear what I did. I also recorded my chickens. I went outside and did some different things. Let's see.
Woohoo!
Well, that's water. I swear.
It's like Foley for a sci-fi movie. Though.
Oh yeah. No, it sounds like tape.
It's in here, Ice.
You must find the
I should have been more prepared.
This
Hold
is
on.
the most prepared you could
There it
ever
is.
be.
Okay.
There it was.
So here's the clashing of the spring. This is what I was looking
I
for.
got it.
My headphones. It's the
Awesome. Am I wrong?
No,
So that
you're
was
not
a-
wrong.
I was like, wait, I shouldn't talk. I want this clip.
Yeah, it reminds me.
And then it just loops. It literally loops. And then there's a card in the thing, and you can pop it out and save your sounds. You could load the card, but yeah, who would want to do that?
I need
It's
that
more-
sound for a project.
Sorry, I need that sound.
Oh yeah,
It's
you
for a
want
project.
it. More- So badass. Sorry. Anyway, there you go. That's the Zoom tube and
Love
the
Love
Kaleido loop. I know there's some awesome samplers. I don't really follow that world too much. Certainly not anti. I love that. I would go down the rabbit hole of samplers, but I haven't, so I don't know really
You
what else
gotta,
is out
gotta set
It's
up
funny
yourself
that you
some
mentioned
boundaries.
samplers because I
Oh my
just
God.
spent the
All
day
day.
building my rack of samplers like that I've had for a
They've
while.
been like in different spaces, and I was like, why don't you
I
just put them all on
finally-
this rack?
Put them in a tower.
And they're in a tower over here now. You can see the MPC behind them.
So I got the tower of power over here that I set up today.
Do you
But-
do you both the samplers, or is that just something that you do, Gus, or Jack? You
No,
use them too?
I don't find joy in scrolling through like 90s LED screen menus. That's not, nope, not. My instrument is my body. I can take it anywhere. I don't need to scroll through menus. Like, I'm in my happy place when I don't
But
have
Gus,
to scroll
it's
the
so
menu.
rewarding. It's so
you see, I'm
rewarding.
very masochistic. And
I appreciate it, but I have a hard time. Have a hard time with it. Maybe I'm the one that has ADD. Like I can't. Where the ADD gives you the hyper focus, though.
Well,
Maybe that's what it is.
No, don't beat yourself up over it. And it was.
Why can't I do it? No, it's not what brings me joy.
There's several reasons why I have like a nostalgia thing for it. For me, it was how I got my start. Was a sampler. That was like the first piece of hardware that I ever got.
Mm-hmm.
So, for me, it's more nostalgia and like just because I've been using, and I only have Akai's, and I only have a few, and I just know how they work, and like the way they sound. And
It's worth it.
I
Yeah.
have a sound. Once again, like it's like if I have a sound in mind. Like there's just a way that I know that I can record into the Akai S2000, that I'm going to get this like particular overdrive that I'm looking for a drum loop, and I have to get it that way, so it sort of just has something to do with that. And time stretching is another thing, if I'm going for like a time stretch sound, there's, they only sound like that, so.
And it's a beautiful sound. The only type of time stretching or stutter type sampled sound that I've played around with is on an H3000 that I have. But talk about menu diving on that, it's the same way. And so just like 99.9% of anybody who has ever used one of those, they usually just go with these amazing presets and just kind of tweak them mostly from that point. Someday, if I have the time, I'll do menu diving on it. And I sent it to, there's a company that used to do mini Moog, they used to put MIDI in it. Sound design. I can't remember the company right now. Anyway, I sent it to these guys in California, and they went through the H3000 and just built it up again from the bottom, or went through it. So it's just going to last longer than me at this point in time. But I, at that point, haven't. Now that it's in the studio, I'm going to start playing with it. But I haven't even touched it for years. But oh my God, what a great effect! So.
Oh yeah, those were amazing. I've heard. I've never messed around with one, but heard they're good.
Well, we got this.
What are you guys working on next? So you working on another release. You always are working on something. How does that? Do you plan it out in terms of track at a time, or are you working with a concept now, or where are you at with that stuff?
Gosh.
So we seem like we're always working on something. That's good. I like being perceived.
That question feels hard to answer.
I think so. Sure,
Yeah.
it looks like you are.
In
And
that
you
realm.
have that.
That's cool.
It's true though. He's being silly. we actually have. So I guess maybe it's because of me. I'm thinking about what I said earlier. It's that we have like multiple approaches to how we would make an album, and we actually have a version of all those approaches like ready. Like we completed too much stuff and didn't put anything out, so
That's a good position to be in.
it
That's nice.
feels, it's like good and overwhelming at the same time. All of the stages are good and overwhelming for me in every aspect at the same time.
Do you
But
feel
yeah,
like the pressure gets heavier with each release because more people become aware of you, and you're like, wow, I really like this one, but I really like this record, but I don't want to be the same? Or you're like, no, I want to make it the same because people like this one. Do you even consider that, or are you just in the moment? How do you
I
guys?
love that. I think that we always can only do exactly what feels right for us because we have this like problem where we literally can't not be that way. But at the same time, we're informed by everything, you know? It's like we're carrying it all with us, but we're still always gonna like do what's right for us. So that's why like the gear will change out or our approach will change out because there's like something we need to accomplish or try or you know, approach or be challenged by, that we both are like, yes, we need to do this.
I like to move on fast, but then I get really nostalgic for like a sound that I was making in the past. Like I want to like move on from something immediately after I get done with it, and then like maybe a couple years goes by and I get really nostalgic to make sounds like I made a couple years ago again.
That I identify with that just in general,
Ooh.
whether it's been released or it's just something you work with for a while. Nostalgia, I wish that I wasn't nostalgic, but it's a huge part of my existence for sure. Which is, you know, so I'm glad to hear. I'm glad
Yeah,
that you
there's no shame in that.
well too. But you know, Gus, of course, the bummer with any style of music, whether whether you hear stories from guitar players or synth people or whatever. I used to use it all the time, then I got tired, so I got rid of all my modular equipment. And then it's like, oh, it was so expensive, and I missed it, and I got it back. So, and I would do that too. I think we've all done that to a certain extent. You know, where we flip stuff and I'm never gonna need that again. But then the nostalgia floats back in. Usually what happens is another, you know, creative friend or artist, they're like, oh, I forgot how good that sounded using those, you know, those modules. God, why did I do that? Why did I? Or what's even funnier is when you see the modules that you built for someone else and you don't have any, and you're like, oh gosh, well, I was just watching Todd's thing and now I don't have one.
Yeah. I haven't had that experience, but I can understand how that would cause a whole new layer of, you know, kind of gas or FOMO.
Sure. I mean, I'm having fun with that. I'm not actually like getting upset about it. You know,
Right,
I mean,
right.
it's what it is. But regardless, it's
At a
certainly
fun level, of course.
Yeah,
This is
brings-
modules, you know. This is all in good fun here. We don't, you know.
Nothing
This
too
isn't
serious.
serious.
He'll be serious now.
No. Yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
No. I'm swirling. There's been so much points of inspiration to pull from this conversation.
We haven't even really talked about guitar much, and that's
That's
something
okay.
that I feel like the audience needs to know how much of a badass Adam is.
I agree.
At guitar, and
Actually,
that point.
I love listening to you play guitar.
Yeah,
Like,
agreed.
it's-
I just had, you know, been listening to your music all week and just like everywhere I can find it, I'm just like leaving it on. Such a good vibe.
I just love playing acoustic music. It's kind of the opposite of patching synths, is working with an acoustic guitar. And one thing that I'm kind of heavy on myself. I need to, and I'm trying to back off. But I literally only once or twice have ever combined guitars and synth. And I think that and here's the reason why. I love the sound of acoustic guitars in electronics. I think there's nothing greater than that. For that matter, on that subject, please don't let me get too far off subject. I love the sound of a synth through the speakers in the room almost more than direct when possible. You know, all the direct sound is great. But anyway, having the acoustic, making the electronics acoustic and adding acoustic instruments, that sound is something I want to strive to do, but I don't want to waste it. So I kind of feel like I'm waiting to that point, but I think that's ridiculous. So next time we chat or we're talking online, I'll tell you, hey, I finally started playing my acoustic with the synth or whatever.
Heck yeah.
But that's one thing I like to do. And another thing is earlier we hopped some subjects because we were just riffing and stuff like that. You were talking about one of the first. I'll come back to the guitar, I swear, if you want to.
Who's running this interview?
So I'll tell one and then Jacqueline. So one of the first shows that I saw was not a big fan of them now, but in 1977, and I mean I was like in second grade. I think it was between first and second grade that summer, and I went to go see a Kiss concert when I was just a kid with my cousin, who was this awesome guitar player. And that was pretty inspiring. And then, that was one of the first concerts I saw. It was a big, fire and all the garbage that they used to do. In fact, it was one of the last, I think that Portland, it was at the Portland Coliseum. If I understand history right, that was back in 77 or 77, 78. And after that Kiss concert, I think they broke some fire codes, and then you couldn't have explosives at concerts for many, many years there.
I believe that.
You got to see the last blast.
Holy cow!
What's that?
You got to see the last blast.
I did.
Blast.
I'll never forget it. It was burned in my brain. I mean, I'm this kid in this concert, and all these crazy people, fun crazy people at this concert.
Mm-hmm.
It was the classic days, and we literally were in line for like a half mile with everybody else. It was really fun. I'm glad I had the opportunity to do that. And I grew up out in the country. I alluded to where I live right now, but we live out in the grass seed capital of the world out here. So there's farms and farmland, which I really love this area where I was growing up. But to go with my cousin that year up to Portland, the big city, and to walk around downtown and then to go see that concert was had a huge influence on me in terms of music and stuff like that. Not Kiss per se, but just seeing music. Cheap Trick opened up for him in terms of rock band. That's the part that was really in. They opened up for Kiss, isn't that crazy? But anyway, and I remember them doing like I'm sure the Dream Police or whatever was part of their song list at the time. Anyway, that was awesome. I'm pining about the old days.
Oh, but that's a really unique story because like anybody who we chat with on here, we always try to go to their origins. Like, what's the real thing that makes you like feel alive about music? It's usually like a pretty early memory. And nobody has had a Kiss concert at that young of an age. That's a first. That's impressionable. That's insane.
You literally see people just logging out of Twitch right now.
No, definitely not. Definitely not.
I was like, wait, where are you going with that one?
No, that's so freaking
Jacqueline,
cool.
what about you? Jacqueline, so what was one of the first memorable concerts that you went to when you were, younger?
So asking me questions is sort of like just a barrel of laughs sometimes. Sometimes I just fall right into like some trauma holes. So just be on the lookout. Because all of my first concerts, I would say there's a part of my life where all the concerts were Christian, and then I no longer was there anymore, so I got to make my own decisions, and there's this part of the concert. So we're gonna talk about this part. Because I wouldn't even really be able to say what the names are, but I definitely had like
part of your life
very limited access to what a concert was.
Okay.
Like maybe saw something on TV or in a movie or something and was like, I think I know what a concert is, but hadn't really experienced one until I went to an indie rock club in DC with Gus.
Nice.
To see Broadcast.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
That
he
was the
was
band
like,
Broadcast?
when we first started dating, he was like, "Oh, let's go to shows," and I was like, "I'm not 21. Like that. I didn't know I could go places." That's like all part of just a layer to this. And so it was very normal to him to like go to some rock shows, and I didn't really know what that meant.
Mm-hmm.
So we found one that I could go to because I was not 21.
Yeah.
And it happened to be this band Broadcast that I then got to have the most intimate, amazing first concert experience of my life with a band that became my favorite band and informed like everything that I love about electronic music. Gus was like just having another Thursday, and I was having like a life-changing experience. But it's just like a grimy little club.
I mean, that show for me was tops too, honestly.
And it was their like I would say like height of being like in a group, like they played with a lot of different variations of bands, and like this was like one that really solidified. So like I was getting to see them at this like sort of peak moment and being like, what is all this? You know, like what, wait, it was like, we went there and I was like, wait, people have just been doing this?
Tender Buttons tour.
Like this has just been going on.
I bought Microtronics at the show.
Oh, at the show, that's right. They had a tour only mini disc.
And I had just found out about the band, truth be told. I mean, they, you know, came out in like 97 or something, but like I had just heard about them in...
Well, because they're from the UK, so they weren't like
in
as
2005.
accessible here.
Yeah, I've never heard of them. This Broadcast is the name of the band?
Oh, yeah.
They were on
Right,
Warp. Yeah, you should check them out. Do yourself a favor.
Oh, I love that we're getting to introduce you to Broadcast right now. This is this is amazing.
Yeah, I haven't introduced somebody to Broadcast in a long time.
Yeah, that's
so
very cool. This is beautiful.
It's kind of like...
Well, because this is what it's all about, right? If we really go back to like origin stories, it's like getting to play something for a friend that they didn't know about yet. That like really was like, oh, you're going to really like this. Like that innocence in our youth.
I won't put it too high of a pedestal, but I'll be open-minded. So I've got pretty open ears. And
oh, no, not to say that this would be that, but just that feeling that we used to have of rushing over to a friend with a record that we just got.
Isn't that a great feeling? It doesn't matter what style you're into. That moment with any music fan is just, that's what makes us, that's why we're making music now. That's why we're involved, because it really spoke to us.
And we actually had a moment where we were experiencing that in the store. You know what I mean? Like we shared the moment of like somebody in the store suggesting us the music.
We have a lot of deep ties to this band, so it's a heavy stuff for us. So like take that with a grain of salt. You don't have to like them, but I think you will.
Check it out.
No pressure, no pressure.
Well, I knew about the band, and it's so much different. But there was a guitar player. There's two things I can bring this back into synths from this, because I guess
You're
I don't know
doing
a
a great job keeping us on track. Thank you so much.
Yeah, this
we're
really
not.
feels...
We're never.
I'm the one that gets off track. You guys are fine. Whatever. So one of the first shows that, like, kind of, Jacqueline, like I said, when you were able to go out and be your own person or whatever. I think it was the summer after I graduated, so I would have been 18 or something like that, so I could drive and do stuff. And I used to jam electric guitar with a good friend of mine who played drums at the place. We'd go to Portland all the time because it was like, you know, the big city, you know, all the big music stores. It was so great. In the late 80s, Portland was a really magical place for music. For someone in that situation, you go up there. I mean, you couldn't go online and figure out, unless you're reading rags or you know, there was no email or whatever, and it was all word of mouth. So we were up in Portland looking at gear or whatever, guitar stuff. And we saw a telephone pole with everybody put their bands on there, and it was Gary Moore was going to play at this little place in Portland. Now Gary Moore is a famous rock guitar player, you know, did a lot of solo stuff. I think he played with Thin Lizzy for a while. Anyway, like I said, hard rock 70s stuff we're talking about. Anyway, but 87, he was doing solo stuff, and this is one of those shows, it doesn't even matter who it is, but he was a fine guitar player, and it was before he had a couple of really huge hits. He was just like, had this core audience. We went there and we saw the band, and it was so great. I'll just never forget. Imagine your favorite musical artist, and you're just sitting there, like on the stage, you're like looking right up there, they're playing right down there to you, and it was just, it was awesome. It was, I think... And of course, being an electric guitar player at the time, I still play some now. He's just a monster. He's a shredder. I mean, he's that kind of style. Just amazing. He got more mainstream when he started releasing, you know, Still Got the Blues and some other stuff that he did later, and he was fine at that as well too. Now my segue to bring it back to synths is interesting, because I'm looking at my notes down here, because I figured I would be like, forget stuff. I have a pretty good memory, but not on the spot sometimes.
You could fool us easily.
So the first Buchla that I ever had, we're going to talk about Buchla for a second, if that's cool. So of course, I was on the Mod Wiggler list for a year or two. It was Muff Wiggler at the time. And, you know, I found out about I had a synthesizers.com system. You know, I had the larger format stuff. And then I found about Muff Wiggler. And then I discovered Euro through there, although I was aware of what the dope for modules were, which kind of started the whole format. Yep. And I'm already getting off. Anyway, and so you'd see that if anybody who's been on the forum, you can still go to the Mod Wiggler, people, if they want to see what we're talking about. One of the sub forums is, of course, is the Buchla.
Right.
And U and Surge, and I think EMS and EML, and the oddball, larger format synths or whatever. See, I am getting sidetracked now. So anyway, on there, I kept dipping into there. I'd be in the Euro section. I go look in there, and oh, that's pretty interesting. These are fascinating. And in those old books, like the Devari Book of Synths I was talking about that I swiped from the library, there's these pictures of these Buchlas, and I guess it looks like it does now. It looks ridiculous. It looks like actual spaghetti, and it looks really crazy, and it's kind of, it might look even ugly to a lot of people. I think it's beautiful now. So, but it was pulling me in. And so I didn't even know the difference between a 200E, which is the modern, late 90s on version of the Buchla. And I didn't know that they were reissued, that they weren't reissues of the early stuff that we all obviously know that now. And that being the case, I kept watching a couple of great videos. I think Doug Claudier, Doug CL from Studio H, right, was thankfully on the forum, because he was the man. And of course, he lives in Portland, Oregon. We're fantastic friend now. We've been friends forever. But back to the Gary Moore thing, that was he passed away in 2011, and it was the same weekend that I drove up to meet a gentleman from Muffwiggler to sell me his 12U Buchla. So it was strange to have that early, remembrance of Gary Moore, and then to transition into synth, to the world of Buchla stuff. And so I got a really beautiful 200E 12 space system. It was all E. The only one that wasn't E was a 297, of course, but it was still a Buchla, module. Oh no, there was a pendulum ratchet in it that was in there. Anyway, it doesn't matter. Awesome system. But before I got that, it literally, I had so much Euro, and it was kind of funny. It was amazing when I did this huge sell-off that I actually gained a fair amount of the money to be able to afford that. I think we had just now I'm getting too deep. I normally wouldn't just flip around cash for the Buchla. It wasn't like, I'll just get one this weekend. It was hard. It took a lot to get to that. And I'm very grateful that my wife, who's amazing and supportive, let me do this. So, but I went up to Portland, and what sealed the deal was I had put a post. I haven't looked for it. I should look for it. It'd be kind of fun to see in the archives on Modwiggler. And I was like, I'd really like to check one out. Is there one in Oregon that I could go listen to a Buchla in person? And Doug immediately piped up, I've got an 18 space. You should come up and check it out. And I even have an old timey iPhone video of me driving to Portland, like, all right, I'm going to try a Buchla today. I know it's on one of these hard drives. It's corny, but for nostalgia, I want to find it. Anyway, I went up there and
want to see it.
He proceeded to blow my mind, and it was like, okay. And that was where I had the hands-on to the whole Buchla format, and just, it was different, it was weird. And it was funny, you guys, because I'd be thinking, well, but I said these things to him, but how do I get like a low pat, like if I want to do a mini Moog sweep on it? I would ask questions like that, and like a Moog style filter, and he goes, well, you can combine these filters, you can do all these things. And then once I started seeing things kind of like the Surge, where it's more molecular in a sense, and that splitting of the audio and the CV, there was, and even at the time, thankfully, he had a verbose module in there for the 258, which was really the key, what was going on here. And of course, the 292E low pass gates are great sounding as well of the E systems. The whole systems are beautiful in their own right, but I enjoy the more analog early 200 sound personally over time. So I don't want to piss anyone off. I certainly, every day I still think, I could sell this and I could get another 200E, but in the end, for me, it truly is the analog side of things that I like to go. But anyway, Doug shared that with me, and from Studio H, and then at the same time, he's so amazing. At that time, he was just a user like everybody else, but he's a brilliant person and a wonderful human, which, these are the only people we need to hang around, brilliant people. Or wonderful or something.
The Venn diagram is good.
To do the best we can. Anyway, it just changed my life. It was amazing. So I immediately made that happen in 2011. So that was really fun. And I proceeded to do flip and try all the different Buchla modules. And then I'd get, I'd catch flack, not, fun spirit, not mean-spirited flack from some of the old timers on there, so to speak. And they'd be like, why don't you just put that module in the closet, and why don't you just buy that one? And I was like, well, I can't. I gotta sell this if I'm going to try the other one. But it went on for years and years. And I didn't do any DIY at that point. I mean, electronics DIY. I've always built things with my hands. I mean, I grew up in construction. I grew up living upstairs of the shop, so I was always making things. Built my first guitar, all that kind of stuff. What was I going to say? Anyway, on that side note, oh my God, you guys, people listening are like, is he ever going to get to a point? He keeps switching gears.
Every step of this is a point.
You had the E, but you preferred the analog, and you didn't do 200 at the time. Yeah,
so I'd done larger format, but it was like as soon as I got the 200 E at the time, it was like immediately, that's when I started making those videos, and then it immediately drew me in. And because I remember asking Doug at the time too, I was like, well, how many hours a day do you spend patching? And at one point he was like, oh, probably 3 or 4 at least. I mean, it was a significant amount. I related that to guitar playing because that was one thing I learned early on, is like someone who's serious is going to play multiple hours a day. That's why I used to tell myself that. And it's true. I usually put 4 or 6 hours a day on any instrument. You make it work. You sleep less when there's other obligations. And then when your schedule opens up, you make it work. But that's right, it was Doug. And so to see him go through avid user, influencer, someone who's inspiring, and I loved his patches too. They were always very inventive, like we were talking about, using modules in unstandard ways to get these sounds. And it wasn't because he didn't understand how to build it, it's just his approach. And that's, I learned, I certainly patterned myself after that side of things. But then to see him create Studio OH out of a need for what he wanted to see in the Buchla. And, some of my, one of the modules that I'm most proud of in this system actually is one of the early prototypes. I've got a couple of 258 prototypes that he was making because we both had the systems. So, hey, you want to try this out for a while? I was like, yeah, see if you can make it work or not work. Mm-hmm. And that was an amazing process. So every once in a while, even though I don't have a 200E, because of Doug's input to the format and such beautiful thinking, it's always going to be a temptation. So, yeah.
Wow, shout out to Doug.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
A lot of us wouldn't be where we are if Doug hadn't been that for you. Like, that's...
Yeah, I mean, his so episode cool. of Source of Uncertainty was really awesome.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, and apparently he's like really good, like a patch guru, is the rumor.
Yeah, that's not an exaggeration.
I was going to say, being confirmed.
Always thinking.
Wow. So that's super cool, way to get into it. You know what I mean? Like that you had that resource right off the bat. What timing and everything. That's really cool.
And then I followed him up to a synth meet. I think at the time I had a really beautiful Bug brand system I was playing around with, and it was a.
That looks great.
In Washington, it was up in Washington somewhere, and it was probably would have been around 2012. Yeah, I don't know, it doesn't matter. Early 2012 or 13, a year or two later after that. So I followed him up, but that's when I got a chance to meet Todd Barton. And then, we made this connection. Oh, we're both in town, or we're both, local or whatever. And then that just blossomed into this great friendship as well, too. I mean, I think anybody who's ever interacted with Todd, whether they're taking a stream or watching one of his videos, probably feels even the way I do about knowing him in real life, because he's genuine. He's a very genuine, and talk about an influencer and someone who inspires, and a very real person. But the depth of, once again, I'm all singing the praises of all the people that we enjoy who are in this field, but yeah, I don't know. I don't think there's never going to be another Todd Barton, and he's absolutely an amazing creative. Even if you're not into Buchla, if you could experience him, the experience that he's had through the 70s and right now, and he just keeps going, it's incredible.
We absolutely agree with that.
Absolutely, he's an amazing individual.
Yeah, definitely had an influence on us, for sure, no doubt.
And my Buchla journey, you know, like he was there from the very beginning, as he was for pretty much, most folks, I would say, with the exception of yourself.
Well, it was fast became so though. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. He was in it, from the beginning.
Yeah, he's definitely like the experience of engaging with him it needs to be experienced, you know?
Absolutely.
Like it's really, yeah, you've said it all. I'm
I've
speechless.
seen it with other people, so I know it's
Yeah.
not just, you
Yeah.
know what I mean? That's why I
Right.
say it like that. I mean, for me
Absolutely.
personally, my experience was fantastic, and it continues to be. We continue to be great friends and influence each other. I love challenges presented by him, or, oh, what do you know about this module? Or, I wish the Buchla did this, and then I'll think about it, and then I'll come up with some weird patch like that switching patch not too long ago or whatever.
Yeah.
It just makes me think. And when I know I'm into synth patching, when I'm laying in bed and I'm literally imagining wires patching to things. And I'm not always in that mode because sometimes I'm thinking about like, Mississippi John Hurt or old time blues players. I kind of, I intentionally separated them, but I want to bring them together someday.
I want you to too.
And I will someday.
That's a good combo.
Well, I think the putting in the hours and allowing yourself to daydream is the formula.
Oh my God, I wish, yeah. I know that I know that I've been very lucky to have that time. Not everybody does at that time. So we have to focus and cut to the chase in many ways. Even now when I have work and obligations daily, I've learned, and as you get older, it's funny how you get older. When you get older, you start to understand, and you actually do learn from your mistakes. You should anyway. I hope you do. Even if it's just tiny little steps here and there. One of the things it's always been I've always been very shy. I mean, we're chatting right now and it doesn't seem like it, but I'm a pretty quiet person actually until I get to know someone, and then I'll open up and I won't shut up, just,
Outside of the synth conversations, we would
Oh yeah, when I
also
get
be-
into blah 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 or guitars or something like that. But it used to be really hard for me. I was too shy to say no to whatever, to doing things and whatever, or helping people or going to do something. Not bad things, just life,
Sure.
And as I've gotten older, and more so in the last few years, it's been really, really important for me as an artist to, someone last week, what are you doing this weekend? Can you come do this? I was like, I'm really sorry, but I've got obligations. I'm busy. Well, one of those obligations I might not be telling you is literally that I'm not going to do anything that day. And so you have to treat yourself to having that space in there. Like you said, Jacqueline, it opens up your mind to creative things. There's no fear anymore. That's like if I have a day for the studio, but I don't have any ideas, that could be depressing. It could be, but at the same time, half the day goes by and I'm futzing around. I'll check some email. I'll practice a song or whatever, and then you kind of start getting into something, and then next thing you know, it just pulls you in. So if that's one thing that anybody out there listening, if it's possible to do, is treat yourself to buffer the time that you have. Take a section of it and give it back to yourself, even if it's only like 10 minutes here and there. I mean, you got to do it. You got to do it. Yes.
This is so good, and it's such a good reminder that when you do that and it maybe has been a while, there might be some of that friction, but it doesn't take long
Not usually, yeah.
to
Pretty rare.
get through it, and then you're just like, whoa. That's something we talk a lot about with what we do on Twitch and other people that Twitch, who we've all kind of shared this experience of when you take that and then you add the Twitch thing, and you've made a schedule and you say you're going to do 2 or 3 times a week or whatever it is, and you're going to allow yourself to just be where you are with whatever it is you're working on, or whatever it is you're trying to, a lot of us do the improv thing.
Right.
That it takes that whole thing to another level of committing to the time. And then the way that things will happen because you're live that wouldn't if you weren't. It's it's this very cosmic thing that we're all trying to define. It's very weird.
Sure. It's a big part of the spice that makes us what we are and makes it what you guys are too. Is the unknown, as scary as it can be to some. I mean, it's obvious. Like today, I mean, I didn't know. I've kind of glanced at some of the Synth Friends. You guys are, like you said, you're doing so many great projects that are interactive with the music community. And then one of the Synth Friends episodes that I tuned into was your friend, the harpist, who you were actually doing music. So I didn't know if I was like, oh, I have to patch songs, or am I going to play guitar? And then I've just had a busy week outside of not just hanging out, like I said a minute ago, but it was just busy and stuff like that. And so I was just like, I'm just going to go in and have faith that it's going to turn out, because I trust, Jacqueline and Gus, so they're not going to steer me wrong. So I just show up, turn on my computer, and here we go. But I'm glad I did, because it leads to new areas of discussion and inspiration along the way. Sometimes, we get these conversations that kind of dwindle and go, but that's just, there's nothing wrong with that. It doesn't have to all be scripted, right? That's one of the reasons I love improvising on the acoustic guitar so much. And that's why I like blues. I don't like to think of myself as we're talking about guitar now, acoustic guitar. I certainly do play blues, because my mentor, a man named Terry Robb out of Portland, Oregon, is literally one of the finest acoustic blues player and electric players on the planet. Whether you've heard of him or not, trust me, amazing and wonderful person. And he became my mentor early on. I started getting into this stuff around acoustic fingerstyle music around that wasn't that long ago. I was playing electric back then, around 2005, I think. So it's been some time. But before that, I didn't play any sort of fingerstyle guitar. My brother-in-law used to work at a really great record shop called Happy Trails Records in Corvallis, which is still there and amazing. And we used to get together every few weeks, and he'd invite me to say, hey, this is listening night, bring some music and share. And I went to his place one night, and he played so in my guitar world, acoustic music, he played some music by a gentleman named John Fahey. Have either of you ever heard of a John Fahey before? It's okay if you haven't, but yeah.
Not offhand. I mean, I've heard of the name, but I couldn't whistle a tune.
No, I understand. So even at that point, it's like, yeah, I grew up reading guitar magazines, so I'd seen his name, holding an acoustic guitar or whatever. But anyway, without the conversation about John Fahey, it literally just blew my mind. So it was this layered solo acoustic guitar music that it sped up, it slowed down, it was in odd tempos. I found out that it was in these strange tunings and stuff. And so I'm sitting there trying to figure out how to do this stuff, and then I find out that, oh wow, John Fahey, unfortunately, I hate this part of the story, I literally became hip to that style of music and realized it was something I loved so much right after he had passed away. But he was living in freaking Oregon. He lived literally like a half hour to 45 minutes north of me, between Portland.
Wow.
But then I realized, oh, who's this guy Terry Robb? Well, Terry Robb actually produced and worked with John Fahey. And so just like in the synth world, and we're so fortunate that we have these ways of connecting with great musicians all around the planet, I've always known that, and most people do, the closer you get to the source, that's the way to go. And so, and I went to a show, blew my mind, and we started taking lessons, and then over a short amount of time, he realized how serious I was. I wasn't going to waste his time either. But we ended up a great bond and a great friendship. So he's been my mentor through the years and playing the blues guitar. And it's been, so the Fahey stuff, basically what it is it's like 20s and 30s Delta blues that's like kind of like in outer space without the Buchlas. I mean, that's what I think about it. It's very ethereal music, it's really pretty. And it's great. So, but then I start taking the lessons and I learned more about the history. And I was like, well, how did he make this song? I mean, how was he writing? And like, for example, so
Okay, it's finally happening.
There's a song he was teaching me at the time called The Yellow Princess, and it was a song by John Fahey. We were just talking about it. And so there's this really beautiful intro, and I haven't played this for a while, so I hope I don't totally train wreck it, but I'll play this riff, and then I ask him where the riff came from, and then I'll demonstrate where that came from. So at the beginning, you've got this. this. Goes on for another few minutes with other bits, but there's this really ethereal intro, and then there's this funky dissonant change down the neck, and I'm like, how did he come up with that? Long-winded story here, guys. And then, well, you've heard of have you ever heard of Mississippi John Hurt? Mm-hmm. And Mississippi John Hurt is an artist, an American blues fingerstyle artist, folk musician recorded in 1928, and then when the folk revival in the early 60s, he was rediscovered and made the rounds and whatnot. Just his playing, by the way, as a side note, is you hear it in any kind of modern fingerstyle. You hear John Hurt's influence. Well, anyway, Terry was like, well, he's playing a Mississippi John Hurt song, and I was like, well, and I said, well, who's Mississippi John Hurt? I'm driving to Portland like once a week. It was not cheap to drive up there every week, take these lessons, and I get up there and literally half the lesson's done, and he was like, we're done for the day. You need to go to the library and listen to Mississippi John Hurt. So I go home and I listen to it, and then it was just like, I always was fascinated with hearing about early Delta blues, but I didn't understand it. And all I heard were these old, terrible recordings that were all scritchy and hard to listen to. And I thought they were kind of in vogue and interesting, but I didn't identify with it. But that was the connection for me. And then it was just like, and then the floodgates opened. I discovered that music. I had my mentor. And I've just as much as I enjoy the history of these synths and how, and, about Don Buchla and Roger, all of the great builders through the years, I also appreciate, that's the nostalgia element for me, the history and the nostalgia. So that riff right there, he was like, that's from a song called the Candyman Blues. And I was like, all right, whatever. So I'll finish with talking about guitar with this. So here's what the Candyman Blues would sound like. It's quite a bit different, actually, but there's the riff. Oops. And then he does this break. So it was a derivative of this 20s style playing, and I just thought that was fantastic. So someday it'll be fun to have a derivative of, say, Morton Subotnick's work and Todd Barton's work and all of our favorites through the years, and take it to another level. At least I can only hope and pray and cross my fingers, right?
I have so many strong feelings. Yeah. That was incredible. Thank you for sharing that. I love the way that you tell stories and use music, and it's just amazing, and I feel like that was really special, and I really, really, really want us all to put all of our energy behind just bringing this idea to life, because we all really want it to happen.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Well, it's been awesome talking with you guys, Yes. I really enjoyed it very much.
I know. I feel like, it's very hard to say where this conversation starts or ends. And I think it could go on for ages, really.
Yeah, I certainly don't expect it to end.
It's not actually ending, even if we're gonna
say
goodbye.
I do want to say that I'm going to butt in here just for a second. But I thought, Gus, I want to apologize to the people I know that are chatting on the side. I have to get over there and look at it, and I can't have this conversation and do that right now. So
it's hard, yeah.
I'm going to certainly go through the notes and see if I can answer for anybody after we're done here, and when I can take my laptop off my music stand, which is awkward for typing on and whatnot. So anyway, I'm sorry. You started to say
No, but I mean, of course, I guess all good things do come to an end eventually.
Of course.
Yeah, I think everyone was enjoying. There's just a lot of love in the chat for everything you were saying, and for the guitar playing especially.
Yeah,
Like-
and the Buchla patching that Adam does is amazing.
I know. We would love
I highly recommend
another
his-
half hour of just you at the Buchla.
his
We would take
YouTube
that
or
as
Instagram.
well.
It's Instagram these days mostly, right?
Yeah, let me put your links.
Yeah, I
in the
need to
chat.
get back on track with the YouTube stuff. It's just a matter of other projects have come in. Instagram is the easiest and the quickest and a good way for me to get in and get out.
Yeah.
And then spend time too listening. I sincerely try to interact and listen to other people on the social media. I'm not the artist that gets on there and then leaves his stuff, he or she stuff, and takes off. I want to interact with it. It's a burden. It can be a burden. So I want to watch what I take in, because what I said, I try to say no. So anyway, yeah, Instagram's the way to go. But watch the YouTube channel. It's going to get revamped eventually. So and brought out again. As we fade out, I'm assuming you're working up to this now. I'd be happy to turn on this really cool patch that's rolling in the background. Is that
Okay,
all?
I was hoping.
I would love to hear it.
Yeah.
So at this stage, the other thing that's funny about it's totally decadent, it's totally ridiculous to have the systems up here. They mostly are different. There's a couple of crossover modules that are the same, but what I decided to do at one point is I think I'll do an earlier style Black Knob 200 with this system, and it's still early, but then the later version Blue Knob, and then of course what's really cool is as MEMS releases more accurate PCBs and reissues things like Vactrols. We didn't get into the technical side, but you guys know what I'm talking about, and many people who are listening do too. Then I'll go through and start to swap out those modules and rebuild those for myself and bring it up to par. But you know what? If I never changed it, I'm so grateful just to have the system set up. So one of the things about this patch that's interesting, we're talking about non-standard uses of sequencers. There's two sequencers in play, but basically what I did was on the 16-stage 246 sequencer, I programmed just by ear a major scale, 2 octaves of a major scale, okay? And it doesn't matter what key, as you know, we'll patch, because that comes down to the oscillators. Then I use the 4 different modules of the 258 modules, 4 oscillators into the mixer. I was creating patches, basically testing out new modules, and that's a lot of times how these also come alive. And one of my favorite modules recently has been this amazing 296 clone. And so, whatever. Here it is, guys. Thanks for letting me listen, and thank you so much for inviting me today. Okay, let's see what.
Thank you so much for everything. I feel like this
It's been a
is
blast.
like the credits music. Okay.
I hear it fun. Let's see if we can get this going. I'll try to build it. And by building it, I'm just flipping switches, lighting things in and out. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for that.
There we go.
Wow.
Man, that sounds awesome.
I know. I feel like there should be some sort of like amazing magical like visual thing that happens now too.
Oh,
But
yeah.
I know we've got some returning friends in the chat and some new friends who are giving a lot of love and just saying how awesome this was. So I want to make sure you know that is happening.
Right on. Thank you. Mhm.
Yeah.
All right,
So,
you guys.
Thanks,
everybody was
thanks,
super
friends,
stoked.
for being here and for giving us supportive energy for this amazing, inspiring conversation with Adam. And make sure you follow him on Instagram and YouTube, and all the love is coming your way. And we will definitely be talking more. I know Gus always likes to ask if we're synth friends now, but I think that was established at the top, and like we're beyond at this point.
Are we synth friends, Adam?
Yeah, I think so. Very much so.
We
Been a while.
appreciate you, and we will see you on the interwebs and talk soon, hopefully.
All right, you guys. Take it easy. Thanks, everybody.
Thank
That
you
was
so
fun.
much.
See ya.
Let's bring it back around.
Man,
Thank
that
you
was
so
delightful.
much, friends. Oh my gosh. Actitech, thanks for being here. Noise, I saw you in here. Hectophonic, returning friend, thank you so much. Thanks for using those cool new emotes that I made. Who else? Oh, Copper Quasar. Love the name. First time chat. Gotta love the synth. Absolutely. Yes, Dark Sparkler and Obama Sweetman were appreciating all of the music making that Anna was doing. This was so awesome. Thank you, friends, for being here. This was great. And to Javen Fox for the raid. What a freaking awesome hang this was. This was so good.
So much fun.
So fun. Always appreciate the good vibes. I was looking up the Davari Book of Synths while he was talking because...
Oh, yeah.
I was like, not gonna forget that. You know what I mean? And I think I found it when I looked it up. I feel like I found it.
You know, everybody's been getting that Alan Strange manual.
I think I found it. The Complete Guide to Synthesizers by Devarhi. This looks like it could be it. It's a $90 paperback. You know that's probably it.
It's probably it.
Yeah, this has to be it.
Yeah, it's gotta be it.
Let's see if I can grab this.
Is this it?
This is something that Adam brought up a few times as part of like his synth origin story, is that he stole this from the library. No. Oh, that was so funny. I'm like, what a sweet and innocent thing to admit to, right? Just that you like really wanted this synth information, and back in the day there was no PDFs.
I mean, I admitted to underage drinking, so you know, it was just
What a stream!
It was just one of those streams.
What a stream! But damn, that was one I'm gonna be thinking about for a while. So, whew! Thank you all for being here, for being part of this. What an inspiring and fun time, as it always is. And I hope you felt as inspired as we were by this whole experience.
It was a fun one.
We will be back on Saturday for movie night, and
yay!
if you are someone who we have been connected with for a while, you may be hearing from us tomorrow about something. You may.
Holy shit. The fact that you just said that, wow, that's big. This is big. This is big, you guys. Seriously, the fact that we just heard what we heard, that's a big deal.
So, for those of you who are here for this, that's a little clue. But yeah, movie night on Saturday. And then, basically, a whole new world is about to happen.
A whole new world.
Yeah, so I'm excited. I'm kind of in this, like, this might be the last day that I'm not allowed to say anything about what's really going on. And then I'll be unchained and free, and I'll be so excited to be able to...
There's so many more secrets.
To chat. I know, we have a lot of secrets right now.
We have so many
really excited to
secrets.
start
We're keeping a
talking
lot
about
of
them.
secrets.
But yeah, as soon as tomorrow might be like the first time that some of the secrets are coming out. So, yeah, thanks for being someone we can share our secrets with. It means a lot. And this was really, really fun. And I'm like really, really freaking stoked about how fun this was. Let's see.
I love that we got a little bit of guitar and a little bit of
Oh
Buchla.
my gosh.
That was
what
an
a beautiful
and. It was an and
experience.
situation. I just loved
Danielle was like, is it connected to Kesha?
I loved the both.
That would be, oh my gosh. Kesha's dropping a new album. It'd be like, we secretly played Buchla on the Kesha album. That would be something we need to manifest, actually. That's crazy.
Could happen.
Why didn't we try to manifest that? I didn't know she was allowed to work on
Could
music yet.
happen. Could happen. Why not?
You haven't been keeping up with your cosmic connection to Kesha? Oh my gosh. The Kesha connection.
I think
There's
I
like
think
the
Kesha
French-
does have stuff going on, by the way.
She does. She's putting out a new album.
Yeah,
It's called
and-
Gag Order, and she is coming for whatever tried to take her out. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
She is coming for it. So
We're all very interested to hear.
thank you, friends. We're gonna check out one of our friends, Techno Thursday, is going on, so we're gonna send you over there. But thanks for hanging out with us and Adam and giving him a warm welcome to the Synth Friends community. That means a lot to us. We'll be talking to you soon, and stay cosmic.
Well, now that, there's the new album, I'm sure that they would be interested in
More Buchla stuff.
a little promo, like